Good evening, Survivor Rights. Another week, and we are here with one of, I have to say, you guys, one of your favorites, Jared Lerwick. I get so many requests for you, Jared. It's wild. Everybody wants to know, when's he going to be back? When's he going to be back? So
Well,
you're back. You're here. And man, we have so much to talk about.
yeah,
We always do. We could just go on and on and on.
yeah, 100%.
Um, Tonight we are going to talk about Forged in the Fire because I am all about it, and I have really, really realized, on my big trip that I took, you guys could probably tell right here on just this, even if you don't look at any of my other stuff, that what fired me up was the hurt and the harm and the pain and the suffering that people are still going through. And so much about that. I had an interesting conversation this morning with Mark Simmons. Did you ever know him as a worker?
I know the name. I don't know that I couldn't say I know him, but
So
yeah,
he
I know who
left.
he is.
Yeah, so he left a couple years ago and is married now. He married someone from the Adventist church. So very interesting guy. But we were talking about, whether or not it was easier for those of us that left back in the day when we didn't have all these kinds of groups, and if this is good for people or not good for people. And I don't really know what the answer to that is, but I will tell you this, man, being forged in the fire, like walking away and the fire that we feel inside. Like so many people have said to me since I've been home from my trip, "You're on fire." I'm on fire, Jared. You
Hmm.
know why? It's not just this, it's also taking on the Baldwin Baby book and so many other things at the same time
Yeah,
that feel so visceral for me personally. But man, I care so deeply for so many people who are so wounded from it and aren't feeling forged yet. They're feeling pretty darn burned.
hmm,
So that is kind of where I wanted to start. So you have walked through the fire and you have allowed it to forge you very, very deeply into someone that is a strong, strong leader of your family, your children, and you have come out the other side saying, I know who I am, I know where I belong. Not everybody is there, not everybody has come to that point yet. And how I don't even really know where to start other than the starting point where we're at right now is, even on Survivor, I'm trying to figure it out all the time. Like, do people need validation? Do people need education? Do people need more spiritual connection? Do we need more tools? And because I'll shut up in a second, I promise. Because also on Sunday, we did that little sing, tried to do that after the morning show on Sunday. And we didn't had technical difficulties with the singing part of it because of the lag, but it ended up that we started talking and had all this fellowship one with another. Totally unplanned, totally like, but it was amazing what people shared, and we had all this conversation around prayer. And so I really have been thinking these last few days, like, what is it that people need as we're moving forward, and what is the starting point, and how do you know when you're on the other side? And because you and I both know being forged in the fire isn't fun.
hmm.
It's not
No,
fun at all.
no. I mean, when I share my story, it's always going to be Christ-centered. I can't not have that be. If I'm going to talk about it, that has to be included. And so I try to generalize as much of that as I can, just to be. I want to be a help to as many people as I possibly can. I don't want to. I know some people say that sounds exclusive. Well, I can only tell you how I'm getting through it, and so I have to put that piece in there. But yeah, the someone was a few people have reached out, and if you're watching this, you'll know who you guys are. But we started having a conversation about the difference between identity and calling. And I think that that's a important piece of this too, because I think when we're trying to figure out how to proceed out of this, sometimes the two can be confused and it can kind of stop us. So I think it's important to also talk about that and how that will help us. And so we went into a listening prayer at church, and what this is, I just can't encourage people enough to do listening prayers, to do these inner healing prayers is what they call them. Now this isn't counseling. This isn't done by a licensed therapist. I'm just going to put that out there. What this is someone that is a spiritual leader walking you through in your intuitive mind. You allow your imagination, you put it at the feet of Jesus, and you allow your imagination to just go, and you accept whatever's in there. And it's crazy what shows up, because there's a lot of people. I think the hardest thing that I had to accept coming into this is, am I just imagining this? Like,
Right.
are these words in my mind and these visions, when I'm getting visions in my mind and I'm seeing in the spirit, is it just, am I just making that up? That's the hardest thing you've got to overcome when you start getting into this. But here's why we're not. Here's why these actually work, is because you will receive wisdom that you can't possibly claim as yours. And you will get hope that you can't possibly give yourself. And so we just have to accept that if you can just imagine something and give yourself hope, then do it. But that doesn't always work. And so when you actually are guided through one of these things where we set the stage and we allow Jesus to come into the imagination, he's spirit. He will. He does. He has for thousands of years. And so we were going through this. Someone had reached out and was like, what's the difference between calling and identity? And so I just started wrestling with that. I'm like, it's a good question. How do you know the difference? And so I went into this healing prayer, and the pastor was walking me through. And what you do is, and we've talked about possibly doing it at some point, but
Yes.
we're imagining like holding your burden. And this is something that I can walk people through. Imagine your burden, describe it. Your eyes are closed. And so I was sitting beside a stream. I was just sitting there, and I'm holding this really massive boulder. And I'm just like, oh, this thing's heavy. Like, this is my burden. This is heavy. I handed it, and Jesus just shows up in my imagination. He's just there, and he's smiling, and I hand it to him. That's part of the exercise. And then we say, well, what do you want us to give? What do you want to give us in return? Because we're all walking out of this with burdens. We're holding them. We can describe them. And the beauty is being able to exchange it for something that's different, that's better. Well, I hand this boulder to him, and he hands me a gold bar. Again, this is just flowing. And I'm just like, wow, that's weird. And I couldn't hardly pick it up. It was heavy. And so I told him, I'm like, hey, you gave me something heavy, and the words just come, yeah, the weight is the value. And then the vision ends. And I'm just like, that was wild. Well, then going into another one, like a week later, we go into listening prayers at our church where the whole crowd is silent, and we just sit and we listen as the pastor, guys. It's a crazy experience. But I went back to that scene, and I'm sitting there, and I go right back to it. Guess what? I'm holding my burden again. Like, this thing is a piece of me, right? Like, I don't know how to exist without this burden, which we can come back to, but that's by my experience. This like defines me. This is who I am. I don't know how to exist without this. And I go back into that scene in my imagination when I'm sitting there, and Jesus is smiling again, and he says, are we here again? And I was like, wow, yeah, Jesus is playful. And I'm like, yeah, we're here. And he goes, you know the drill. And so I hand him the boulder, and he hands me the gold bar, and then he says, do you want to know what that is? And I was like, yeah, I really would. And he goes, that's a calling. And it was crazy because like the week prior, someone had reached out, and we were discussing the difference between identity and calling. And I was like, wow. And he goes, it's a calling because it's heavy. But it's the value is in the weight, and you won't lay it down. So I'm thinking, then I just had this vision of walking, backpacking through the mountains with a bag of gold. If you're tired, do you set the backpack down and keep walking? Like, whew, glad I got that off my back.
Right.
No, you rest, you eat, you're not letting that backpack go because the value is in the weight of it. And so that was just wild to me. And I'm like, okay, that's a calling. So as we're talking about like coming out of what we're coming out of, we're being formed, we have our identity. Your identity is something that'll be really cool. It'll be exciting when you feel that. It's like, I think I'm this, and it's exciting. But then there's the calling. And if you don't have the calling, the identity won't be solidified in you. That is what the calling is for. That is what being forged is. Gideon was a mighty warrior. How cool is that to hear you're a mighty warrior? Then he had to go to war. And that was heavy, but he did it because it was who he was. It was what his identity called him into. And had he never gone to war, in God's eyes, he always would have been a mighty warrior, but not in Gideon's eyes. And I think that that's the struggle when we start receiving our identity as we're being forged. Is God knows who we are, and He says your name. But if you don't allow Him to call you into something new, and that's the big thing, is like we were part of this, we're called into something new, and that transition sucks. But if you can be called into that new thing, that calling, your identity will be solidified in your mind. It already is in God's. He knows what you're capable of. But this is specifically for you, and that's what solidifies it. Because an untested warrior, does he believe he's a warrior?
Right.
No. And so going through that vision just kind of cleared that up for me. And guess what? It has not been revealed what that gold bar is for me, what my calling is. But it was revealed that it's a calling, it's heavy, and you'll never set it down because the weight of it is heavy, but it's got a ton of purpose into it.
Yes.
And so anyway, I wanted to just walk through this. This just all happened in the last couple weeks in my life personally. And I'm not going to say I've arrived and figured this out and I'm healed and all this. It's a continual process. And I'm going to always share where I'm at in the process on these calls of that help. So again, I could go, is that really from God? Well, I'm not coming up with this wisdom. I'm not coming up with this. And then when I talk to people about it and I say, this is what a calling is, and they're like, holy cow, yes, that's what it is. That's not coming from me. And if I were to claim that, I would be a fraud. And so that's where I'm saying these types of prayers, as we're coming out of what we're coming out of, like I cannot tell you enough, like these types of inner healing prayers is like doing 30 counseling sessions, and I've been in counseling for a long time, so I can speak to it. Anyway, that was my long story time of things that have just been happening recently. Jesus does show up, and He does talk, and it's real, and it helps. Like, you don't have to be here anymore. You don't have to be in here. There's always going to be a piece of who you are, but that is going to be used. Your past is going to be used specifically into this new thing that you're being called into. Anyway, so I wanted to share that. I don't know if that answered the question.
I love that it does, because I feel that calling so deeply. Like that's why I'm
Yeah.
doing what I'm doing. It is like, to my own devices, I would not do this because it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy. Like, but it is such a calling for me. And then when I like traveled, I just come back more on fire. Like I'm like, God has just so clearly defined for me what it is that I need to be doing with my life. And I just can't not do it. And I will never lay it down. And it isn't that it's a war that I'm in. It's just like, it's exactly what you said. It's that I feel so much desire to help people get to their calling,
Yeah.
to get to that place for themselves. And I don't feel like we're trying to tell people what to do with their lives or how to live or any of that. Like, it's not that. It's just, there is peace on the other side of it. And, it's so interesting because I don't even know if you know this, but oddly enough, I was sitting the other day and I was thinking about all of, just all of it, like wondering, because I always want to do the next best thing or the right thing, for everybody. Like, are we doing enough? Am I doing it right? All of that. And that's my human nature questioning, is it enough? Is it enough? Is it the right thing? And then your wife sends me this prayer. Did you know that? She sent me this prayer in the moment that I was literally, I was crying. And she sent me
Yeah.
this prayer, and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. And she said, God just asked me to pray for you. And she
hmm
did. And like exactly what I was going through and thinking, am I the right person? All of it, like, can I do this? That it just feels like it's so much, Like God is asking, like, I don't know. I'm just a person living in the middle of, and it was so clear. It had already started coming. God had already started saying to me, I have chosen, it
hmm
confirming that I just needed to not worry about 5 steps down the road. I just needed to worry about the next right step. And
Yeah.
I got this prayer from your wife, and I was like, okay, I'm in. And I was fine. Literally, like, just like that. I went from a pool of, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this, to God's got me. We're good. Let's go. And it
Yeah.
was that fast. It was just wild. I was like, your timing, Kendra, could not have been any better. Like, literally, it was the moment that I needed that. So, just
Hmm.
interesting. So, yeah, I think we should do this a prayer with people. Um, you need to do that. I don't know how to do that at all, but I think it would just be very helpful, just because I was doing a listening prayer. That's what I was doing, was saying, show me what to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
And I get this message from your wife of literally, she recorded a prayer for me and sent it to me in the moment and said, God is asking me to pray for you right now. And it was so amazing. So anyway, I just think, and then to have you on this week, it was already like, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to question anything. I'm just going to go with it, because it'll
Yeah.
all be what it needs to be. And I'll get
Yeah.
out of the way now.
No, and that's part of her identity is,
Yes.
that's part of her identity, and then her calling is like she'll just get it of I've got to pray for this person, and
Yes.
she's pulling her phone out and she's sending a prayer, and that's something that I'm not cued into like she is, where I just watch God work through her, and I know part of that is sometimes she'll send something and not really get anything back, but she knows she's not doing it for that. She's doing it because and that's not who she is. But in obedience, like if we're going to really live into the spirit, because we just had to make the decision that if I live in the flesh and this is it, and this is all I have, this sucks. That's
Yes.
where we got to, is like this
Right.
seen world that I can touch, taste, feel is not enough. It's not enough because you've been in prison your whole life. Well, it sucks to be you. You lost the lottery of life. You spent all these years being raised in abuse. Sucks to be you. And we just rejected that. Like I cannot believe that that's it.
No.
So it just became real that the unseen world is more real than this right now, because the unseen world always has been and always will be. Then this world is the closest. If we're going to say one's real and one's kind of fake, this is the fakest. People may disagree, but that's the decision I made, because I couldn't say this was it, because if it is, I don't know, let's say for my age, I'm half done. That was fun, right? And so that's why we started pressing in and be like, no, and again, the subject of this one that we're talking about, like, no, the last, 40 plus years have formed me. I've sat in it. I haven't ran from it. It's formed me, and now we're going to press into the spirit, the unseen world. We're going to use our imagination. We're going to be really susceptible to the leading and guidance of the spirit, to the things we hear in our head. We're not going to say are just, oh, those are just thoughts, or it just dawned on me. That's
Yeah.
kind of how the Holy Spirit speaks, is things just dawn on you. And I think it, I think we take too, I can often take too much credit for really good ideas that were just handed into my brain. And once we started pressing into that, both Kendra and I started getting these feelings of we have to do these things. And one of hers is she has to go to war with prayer for people that sometimes she doesn't even know that well.
Yeah.
And then she's being called into more and more responsibility into that prayer, and then she will get some feedback from people of like, holy cow, that was like exactly. And it just keeps confirming, like, either we're amazing, either just we're just impeccable with our timing, um
No, there's no way.
or this is all real, and it's all real. And so when you find out who you are and you're called into something, be
Yes.
ready, because it's
Yeah,
wild. It's
it
wild.
is. It is. I was literally, because in the flesh, I was saying, I don't want, like, this is too much. And she literally prayed that I would be obedient. That
Hmm.
give Crystal obedience, more obedience. I was
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah,
Like,
she
yeah,
She
it was
told me about
wild.
it afterwards, and she said, if I'm remembering right, she said Crystal's angels are tired, and I was like, whoa.
Yes.
And she's
It
like,
was,
I gotta reach out.
Yeah, it was wild.
I was
Wild,
like,
wild, wild. But it was,
anyway,
I mean, in the moment, could not have, but there's no denying what happened. None. There's
yeah,
no denying that. So, yeah, I really, I just want to say that that was very real for me and to share with everybody out there. If you've never had anything like that happen ever in your life, like, be more open to it because
yeah,
literally there's just no denying what that exchange was like. So that takes us directly to the point that I really want to talk about, which is the faith and the spiritual ground that we're walking into
hmm
and what that looks like now, because it looks so different for a lot of different people. And it's, with so much going on in the world right now and with all of the mainstream Christianity, like all of it, there's just so much that's divisive that's happening in our world. And so I think that was part of what I was also feeling is like, I don't want to feel, I don't want that. That's not what this is. But just my knowing after what happened on Sunday when the technology didn't work for the sing, and then it was like I felt so after that I felt so called much more deeply into having more conversations like this
hmm
because I get criticism on one hand for leading people to Christ. I get criticism on the other hand for not leading people enough to Christ and, everything that's in between. And how do you walk that line? When I say I live in love, I don't go to church. Love for me is the answer. I live on native ground. I just know that God is in charge of my life and that the Spirit lives in me through me. Like that's all I know for sure. And so that's the conversation I really wanted to have, like to stand in that faith. And I have complete faith in that.
hmm
And I just got confirmation of it the other day that I'm
yeah,
standing in it. And so, yeah, I get a lot of those promptings too. Sarah's saying I sent her a song. I do. I get a lot of that. I get a lot of like, you need to reach out to so and so, or you need to think like,
hmm
and I do a lot of that as well. I don't do the prayer part of it, but I do the reaching out part. So, rebuilding, questioning everything, like to give people a starting point. I love the listening prayer idea. So, if people out there are interested in that, you would be willing to do that, correct?
hmm
Through
yeah.
Zoom kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that it's something through the identity exchange that I did one on one with a coach. We landed in a church that it's crazy how we got there because um, it happened to be my wife saw a book by a guy that was listening from God, and if there's a book about hearing the voice of God, we're all in. Like we're turned out it was a pastor that wrote the book, and he's local, and we went to his church then, and then we ended up like they do what the identity exchange does. They actually do that in church. They actually have deliverance. They have when you read the Great Commission, you read about what Jesus said, go do these things. Um, those things aren't in a lot of churches. So like the American Christian body is divided, and that's exactly what was predicted. That we would be separated. That and I was just reading, having a form of godliness and denying the power thereof. What that means, what I think it means, is you've got God, but like the real like deliverance, the healing, the miracles, the seeing in the spirit, those promptings, knowing it's the spirit and being able to communicate with each other in the perfect time, like that's the power. That's what we're supposed to be living by. And what we found is just most churches, like it's easy to see the 2x2 church has no power. It was easy. That was an easy target, right? It was just like, you have no power. Well, of course they don't. They don't have any. People that say they do, you don't. It's not there because I've seen it, what it looks like in an actual church. So we landed in a church that has all the things that you're supposed to have. And part of that is the listening prayer stuff that we've been talking about. And then we went to a training and we got trained all for free. Like they train people on how to walk people through an experience with God. And that's the other thing is like I think too much is we're trying to package God in a way that we think people will accept, and that's dishonest, and it breeds distrust with people.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I had another vision on that's wild, but I don't know, maybe we'll come back to that. But like I was told specifically, don't prepackage that. just let people have a healing experience with it.
Yeah.
And it is what it is in their mind. You're not in control of it.
Right.
And so anyway, that this is stuff that nothing else worked for me for anxiety and depression and just ruminating on the past. It brought purpose to it,
Hmm.
and it made it kind of worth it
Right.
in a way. Like, and that's a, I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. It made it brought so much purpose to it that now it's a big piece of what I'm being called in to do. So had I not been raised in that, I don't know.
Yeah, I say that a lot, even about
Yeah.
a lot of my life experience that I would wish on no one. I would literally wish none of it, but I would not be able to sit where I'm sitting today doing what I'm doing and know what I know in my bones.
Hmm.
And that's where I tend to get in the way of myself. That's when I get into trouble, is because I do have enough knowledge now, that and experience, that I think I know better than maybe
Yeah.
God does some days. You know what I mean? It's like, oh well, I don't want to do that, you know. Um,
Yeah.
and then I get a prayer from your wife that says
Mm.
she needs to be more obedient. And her angels are tired of prodding her along because she's a stubborn little
Mm.
girl up there. But anyway, yeah. And I finally just was like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about what people think. I'm just going to, like,
Mhm.
for me, love has been the thing that has, and it is that just that it doesn't have a package. I don't have any way to package it. I don't have any way to put anything on it other than, and maybe that's what I struggle with right now, is I don't have a language for it yet. All I know is that I have been forged in the fire, and
Mm.
I know that when I'm not standing in obedience, then the fire gets hot again very quickly and
Yeah.
brings me to alignment really, really quickly for myself. But
Well, and if you're not in the fire, I mean, this is the thing I've been thinking about too, is um, if you're not, I think of gold, like, the old example of gold that goes through the fire. There's also the silversmith. I was reading about how silversmiths, like, they know the exact moment to pull it out of the fire to just make it pure enough and pull it out before it starts getting damaged. And
yeah,
I mean, silver that hasn't gone through that, gold that hasn't gone through that. We know the old adage is the impurities. It's not pure, but like that really has been speaking to me a lot lately. Is there's a lot of things that I believed I was, but was entirely untested in it,
mhm,
and there's God doesn't need us to go to the through the fire to prove to Him who we are. It
right,
is entirely for us, and so the fire can consume you. It can just consume you and until there's just nothing left, or it can have purpose to it and it can forge you. And that's where I've been led now, is like, okay, I've been through some stuff that a lot of people haven't been through. I've survived stuff, and we've the last couple of years have been, even outside of the church, we've been through some stuff, and
mhm,
maybe we'll talk about it someday, but it's stuff that, like, I wanted to run. I was just like, I just kept thinking, like, most people wouldn't be dumb enough to just sit in this situation. They would run from it. They would, like, and I was even thinking, like, how do I escape this? How do I? But I just knew this voice from God, like this stillness of sit in it. Like, don't run from this. Sit in it. You're being formed. Like, I've felt that for the last couple years,
right,
and it has. Like, I think about who I was. I was way weaker a couple of years ago. I thought I was strong leaving a church, leaving a community, and leaving. And it was like, yeah, that does take strength, but like, it's only further built when you stick with losing your community. When you stick with, like, there's a lot of people that'll go and go back in because it's like, I don't know who I am, that
yep,
I'm lost. But like, to sit in the unknown and allow that fire to form you and allow yourself to be have your identity spoken into and called into something new. That's why I'm
yes,
saying, like, it's a wild adventure if you give it all to God and be like, I'm done. I've done
yep,
all I can do. I'm done living in this flesh. I'm done. And then He's like, cool, let's go live in the spirit and watch out. Miracles are going to be happening all over the place. But that's where, like, if you can just sit in that and be there's redemption in that, and there's
yes,
strengthening, and there's maturing, and there's all of this stuff that happens in there. And I just I don't know. I can't encourage people enough to like when you want to jump out, when you want to run, when you want like find that stillness and inner healing prayer has helped me a ton to just sit in it. I can't fix it. I can't do anything about it. I can't just flip the switch and change this. Um, I've gone through anxiety both with counseling. I've gone through anxiety where I took medicine for it. I've gone through anxiety with this, and this is better. Um, anyway, that's the encouragement that I have is like it's not always a million degrees. You do come out like there's phases, but
Yes.
we are being formed. And again, the world needs that formation.
Hmm.
Like there's a whole place in the world that's needed specifically for you. And so that forming isn't it sometimes it's not, I mean, rarely is it all just about you forming that. There's like a gift that the world is waiting to receive from you and who you
Right.
are.
Yeah.
And so that forming helps like solidify that, and then you can take that out and you're a gift to other people.
Yep.
And I think it comes through that obedience. And
Yes.
I don't know. I still, and then I'm rambling, but I believe in my life, I'm going to speak for myself. I believe that there was a tormentor, and the tormentor was allowed to crush me because nothing is outside the will of God, and even the tormentor does his work for him because it brought me to his feet, and I finally was like, I'm done. I'm done. I spent all this time thinking I was doing the right thing in this church, and then we left, and I thought I was doing the right thing here, and then and then, I'm obsessed about this and running to all these different things, and I finally was just done. I'm done. I can't do this anymore on my own. I don't want to do this anymore. And it was because of that anxiety and that depression and fearing this and fearing that. Like that did a perfect work and brought me into the place that I finally found peace and hope. And it wasn't at a doctor's office and it wasn't at a counselor's office. And I've done all that. I can speak on it. I did all of those things for years. It was this. It was like actually going and connecting into a community of people that have been through similar things and could walk me through healing that they themselves had been through. So that connection piece. And anyway,
It's the
rant.
fear and conditioning. No, it's the fear and conditioning that I feel like that the two by twos did to so many people, and it's just so what it did is it created. It was so much of a formation of who we were because there was so much fear and so much conditioning, and then you
Mhm.
take that away, and the void of not having that dark hole, this big black hole, like how do you fill the big black hole? But there's nothing like on the other side. It's like they don't want to jump into something else, or they don't want to, it's like what's right, what's wrong, where do we find the but there's also just so much emotion around all of that, and just what I really feel and what I have really enjoyed, and especially on this trip that I just took, is just the love between us and the knowing between us. And then when we had this conversation on Sunday, it was just people crying over where they are and where they want to go, and letting go of that big black hole that they have, that has been their life up until this point.
Yeah.
And it's like to let that go, it was such a profound, and I was glad it wasn't recorded, but then I was like, I wish it had been recorded because then I would have been able to like go back and I don't know. But what has come through me from that experience was that there is still such a deep, deep, deep desire to have what we're finally realizing, Jared, we never had. We thought we had it, but we didn't have it. And now then that's a whole nother level of betrayal and grief. And that was a lot of what I felt on Sunday was grief of, I still am just in disbelief that these people could hurt me so badly, knowingly hurt me so badly. And so then that's where the natural side of Crystal gets angry or upset or
Mhm.
impatient of just saying like, they're not going to change, like blah blah blah. Okay, the answer to that though is it's not about them anymore. We can still have community. We can still love one another and have a connection based on our shared knowledge of what got us to this point. But moving forward from here is what God's asking us to do now,
Mhm.
is to walk out of the fire. What did it take to walk out of that fire? and to be fully intact and to come out formed in the likeness of what it is that we are meant to do now with that experience. I love that you already said he's using all of what brought you to this moment for good.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can take the good with you and use it as you move forward. You also said it can burn us up. There's a breaking point. Everybody's got a breaking point. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that breaking point is for other people, and I don't want to feel responsible for it. Like, that's part of my whole thing. Like, that's a lot of responsibility to feel like people are getting to their breaking point, because it's like it's almost easier to go back, is what
Mm-hmm.
some of it is. It would just be
Yeah.
easier to go back to the structure of what we've known, even though we know it's not going to edify. Now we know it's just a big black hole. It's not. It's not what we need now either, you know? So I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like building all these relationships under pressure is a good thing, but it also, I guess for myself this week, it's been letting go of the pressure. I'm just going to focus on loving and building relationships with people, and I'm not going to worry about the pressure. I'm not going to take on what God is trying to do. God will do it, and I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, because I am a big advocate of community in connecting with others. And I say that not having a huge community that I have connected, but it's the more the um, directionally aligned with how we even see God using us. He could come down and just be, well, he did. He came down in the flesh and was like, hey, this is what we're going to do. But how he works is through people. He works through people, like we've already talked about, like what happened. And it was, we are the hands and feet. And so I believe that like imaginative prayer in a community and receiving your identity with others and all of that, like that type of stuff is super powerful because it is in community. So I'm always going to encourage that. Now, there's a way to move into that, and there's a healthy way and there's an unhealthy way. But relationships are always dangerous. Um, but being burned like we were makes it hard to move back into a community. It is, and I always feel like there's a piece of me that I'm not releasing. Well, there's varying degrees of that circle, and so we have, I have my outer circle of people that I know, people in men's groups, stuff like that. And then I have a closer inner circle, and then in my immediate circle, there's only a couple people that are really in there. But I think it's easy to take the identity. Here's what we found. It's easy to take the traumatic false identity into a new community. That's what I found is I go into another community, but then pretty soon I'm that guy. I'm that guy that's got that crazy past and was part of this crazy thing. And then I was like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be an ex anything. No, I'm me. That was an experience, and now I'm moving out of it. And so I think part of, how do you say this? Part of coming out of the fire, I mean, you say unscathed. I definitely wasn't unscathed. But at some point, it says that with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I think it was the smell of smoke wasn't even on them. Eventually, you got to let go of the smell of smoke. You got to let go of it. You got to release it. And that's the stuff from the past. That's the stuff that you were in. You couldn't exist, and now you do. Again, our entire life was focused on what we would achieve maybe when we died. So our entire life was forward focusing, both fearing, but also looking forward to death, the dying life. And that's what we preached. That's what we heard preached. And so we were looking for that thing that eventually our works would help us achieve. And then those of us that received the gospel of grace were told, after the whole church fell apart and the scales fell from our eyes, then you're told, hey, that thing you're working for really hard, you have, and you had it all along. Now what do?
Right.
Like, you have life left. That was something you were gonna be told, well done, thou
Good and
thy
faithful.
faithful servant. Yep. We were going to hear that. We had songs about it, right? We had hymns about it. But it was going to be when we died. And now it's like, no, you can live in assurance of that now. So those of us that are living in that, I think the big struggle is like, I don't know what to do now
Yes.
because that's what I was working for. So what do I work for now? And this is where, like, work for kingdom right now. Now you're already in it. Your spirit, we have a spirit that's living in that kingdom right now. I know you can't see it and you can see the effects of it. And I know that ethereal thing, it's hard, but you're already living in that. So what does it mean? Explore relationships, love people, ask God, show me what this fire was for. Show me the people that need me because of my experience. Show me that. And let's get going on actual calling. You weren't able to fulfill any calling before. Um, and that's the beauty of what you've been formed in. Now you're called out of it, and now you can be called into this calling that helps people because that is kingdom living. It's not just your next promotion. It's not, securing your 401k or retirement. We're told God just takes care of that stuff. So we really can go focus on stuff like you say, like loving people and caring for people and making sure that person's okay and that person's okay. Like these are the beauties of the kingdom that we can live in right now. And I always say we were so afraid to die, but now we're not afraid of death and we're afraid to live because we don't know what to do now. Well, that's the great commission now is what we're supposed to go do is go build kingdom right now. That's the stuff that'll bring joy to your heart. And when you throw yourself into that, you'll get crazy. You'll get prayers out of the blue where it's like, oh, that happened, and it's so amazing. So anyway, that's what I encourage people to do because you can live the rest of your life smelling like smoke. You can live the rest of your life completely cooked. And I know that feeling, and I know that feeling of like, I'm never going to get there. It's too late. I've been in this too long. I went through all of that. Well, if you serve a God that redeems time, he can redeem all of that. He can redeem all of the time you've lost. Like the next 10 years could be the craziest, wildest years where you have 40 packed into 10. Like that's the type of stuff that happens, and it's been happening all around us. We've just been blind to it. But it's been happening in churches all around us where miracles are happening, the kingdom's exploding, but we weren't a part of that. Well, now you can be a part of that, and it's crazy and it's wild, and it's the best way to just leave that in the past. But you're not going to forget it because the world needs that. What was forged, the world needs that gift, and it is. You are a gift to other people that need your help because of what you've been through.
And the seed of that, what we talked about on Sunday, is the seed of that is the unworthiness. So many of us came out of that and they don't feel worthy that God could love them the way that and create a miracle in them or use them in any way. And so what worth are they? Like now what do they do? And they just sit there and don't know what they're supposed to do with that. So the guilt and the shame and the unlearning of all of those things, I feel like is really a big piece of not smelling like smoke,
Hmm.
and to just say but that the seed of unworthiness is so deep and it is so penetrating. Like I know what it takes to get smoke out of clothes and
Hmm.
out of off your skin, like it's not an easy smell to get rid of. And yeah, it's like it just wants to cling on to you, all of us. Like and I have to say, Sunday morning, like realizing how many people really do still have that, like, but does God even see me or know that I'm even here?
Yeah.
And that fear and that conditioning that is
Oh, yeah.
keeping them
And
in
this
the
is where I'm passionate about this stuff because I can tell you from my experience, and people have way more experience than me in these areas. I'm just going to say that I get that. But like in my personal experience, oh man, he does see you. And this is welcome to spiritual warfare. You're not like, I still go see a counselor that does discipling with me. I still do all of those things. But what I'm saying is, spiritual warfare is real. Living in the spirit is real. And sometimes those beliefs and that hammering in your thought, like those thoughts that just keep hitting you and hammering you, this is spiritual, and you can't fight that battle naturally. You can't fight it in the flesh. You'll lose because it's based on a lie. And we're so easily tricked. Look at what we believed for years. We're so easily tricked. But what I want to invite people into is to fight this battle in the spirit realm. And it starts with Scripture is the truth. So if you accept that, again, I have to do this from a Christian perspective because that's my story. And I can tell you how I fight it. But when I start getting those thoughts of like, whatever you're working on is not going to work, you're no good, you're not worthy, you're not, like, number one, those are spiritual attacks. I can't go to a therapist and do talk therapy and get rid of that. In fact, my therapist says that. You have to fight that in the spiritual battle, and part of that is saying declarations out loud. Speak out loud. You know what spirits can't do unless they embody someone? They can't speak out loud. They have to do it through someone. Your spoken word is so powerful. Use it. Use that gift. And so speak the truth. When you feel unworthy, it's like this. God, I'm so grateful that you died so that I'm worthy of all the love you have for me. That's how you start fighting in the spirit realm. You don't have to believe it. You speak it out loud and you declare the truth in gratefulness. And I'm telling you, the spirit, your enemies that you can't see, but put thoughts in your mind that wreck your day and wreck you. If you speak that truth out loud, you are entering into the spiritual warfare, and you enter it in with worship and praise and gladness that everything he says you are, you're beloved, you're a child, you have a bright future, you have a mansion above, you have all of these things. The enemies of your soul hate joy. They hate it. So their whole goal is to rob you of that. And I'm telling you, it can be yours. It can be yours, but you have to fight it, and you have to speak it out loud and speak the truth, and you have to start doing it. And what it says is renewing of your mind. What it's talking about is speaking the truth to where your mind starts. Actually, it actually starts changing. Like, we have proven that positivity and positive thinking. This isn't just imagining something and trying to think positive. This is speaking spiritual declarations out loud in the spiritual realm. And I can tell you, it works. I'm living proof that this works.
That's the difference that I want to make. This is what happened. So Bernita was the speaker that morning, and so then this whole thing happened after that. And Fran was there. You were in that conversation. I want to hear what you have to say about that, Fran. And somebody said, but I don't know how to pray, and I don't want to do the these and thous anymore. I don't want to get down on my knees. And Bernita said, just sit in the room and just declare, God help me. If all you do is say, God help me.
Yeah.
That's when to just say that. And it was like, I don't know, Jared. It was such a powerful, interesting time to be in that. Like, I could not have planned or made that what happened Sunday morning. It just naturally, God made that happen, and it was profound in that, like, to just learn. And so then the whole dialogue around, like, how do we pray differently, and and it was just like, if that's all you do, if the one thing you do, and it's what you said, I said, it's not, you're not just slapping on an affirmation, you're literally making a declaration. And that's where the spiritual piece of it comes in. And I think that's really the message that I walked away with Sunday is
Yeah.
calling out to God rather than, a magnet that you have on your fridge. It's not the same.
No.
It's not the
No.
same.
No, and take authority. Like, that's the thing is Jesus said all authority was given to me. The entire existence was
Right.
handed to him. And he said, he walked on water, and he said we'd be doing greater things. Well, what does that mean? Like, we've got to take this stuff literally. It means that when you put your life at the foot of Jesus, you have power. And the enemy wants to make you feel powerless and alone. That's the goal, to steal your joy, to make you feel powerless and alone. And what you need is just another 35 years of talk therapy, and maybe what you need is another pill. Again, that was what was told me. Like, I just got, and finally I was like, I can't I can't, this isn't working. Nothing's working. And that's where I'm like, okay, then I'm going to go listen to everybody's testimonies who have had miracles in their life. I'm just going to go listen to them all. So I just started watching videos of people that are like, yeah, that was me. And I was healed in a day. And I'm like, BS. Like, I don't believe it. But it just kept coming up. And then my algorithm got screwed up. And that's all I was getting. And so there's too much proof. There's too much proof of people that were healed like that. And then I go back into scripture and I go, that's actually what it says. Is you're in a spiritual war. The spiritual realm is more real than what you see right here. This is the temporary thing, but you are living in a spirit realm right now. Yes, you cannot see it, touch it, taste it. You can't do that, but you can experience it. And yes, if you start speaking declarations out loud, if you will just open up scripture and read a couple verses and then pray them, Father, I'm so grateful that, and you can pray that of expecting it. And those are the types of things that just move the spiritual realm, because the enemy lost. They lost. And what they're trying to do is convince you that you're worthless, you're powerless, you're alone, and it's never going to change. Wrong. Because it's already won, and then it was handed to you. So stand up, take your authority, and live as royalty, because that's what you are. And I'm not saying you're going to get it immediately. I still don't. But to speak declarations out loud and take authority over this, they will flee. Those thoughts go away. And sometimes you have to do it every day. I have to do it multiple times a day sometimes, because what we came out of, like the programming is so thick.
The programming is so horrific and so defeating. It's just so much of, the more you suffer on earth, the greater your reward in heaven.
Oh, yeah.
All of it. Like, you can just go over and around and around.
Yep.
And it's, it just, yeah. And that whole voice of just like, who do you think you are? Like, I don't know. It could just, for myself, those are the things that just go around and around and around. And it's like, this is not, and finally, like this week, I'm like, this isn't about me. This is nothing, like it is through me. It is my willingness to be obedient in what it is that I'm supposed to be doing, and helping people find that, win the spiritual warfare. That's it,
Yeah.
and the passion there, like, it's like what was revealed to me about you. It was, don't let him go. Don't let him not get on that show. I hounded you for almost a year before you finally agreed to get on the show. But something inside of me kept saying, don't stop. Just keep asking, keep asking, keep asking. And I did every once in a while. And here we are. Like, I just find it so fascinating. The whole finding your voice on the other side of it, and just walking out of that fire and knowing. And I just think you are a wonderful example of living what you believe so deeply. So I'm going to give just a second for questions, because we are already at 6:23.
I know it's
Um,
that went
I don't
quick.
even know where the time goes. It's like, boom, the hour's over. What would you like to say? And do you guys have any questions specifically that you would like to ask tonight that's out there? But otherwise, I want to know what has been on your heart about this, and what you would like to share in the last 6 minutes that we have.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about it today, and I was thinking about the specific thing that we lived through, and I was thinking, I was feeling moved to share it. And then I just like went up to my wife, and I'm just like just tearing up, like, I don't know if I can get through this because of this one event. I just want to share with people. But I think I can get through it. Now, this is our own little miracle that we saw, and it was when we were in the 2x2 church, and we've mentioned it. I think Kendra mentioned it a little bit, and I mentioned it. But here's the deal. Our son was not growing. He was just, his actions, he was behaving just erratic. There were just certain things that were just, we just had this feeling of like, something's wrong. And it was just like our poor little guy, like, something's wrong. It's not right. And then he started saying what all the time and making us repeat. So anyway, we go to the doctor, and we're just like, man, is he completely broken? And we sat in that for quite a while. It was such a trial for my wife and I to go through, of like, people don't know the half. the stuff that we experienced with him and going and seeing specialists and trying to figure out what's going on, because it just seemed like everything was broken in his body. Um, and you're worrying about it as a parent. Well, then we finally, for his hearing, we took him to a doctor. We're like, okay, fine, we'll just go to a doctor. And they said, well, they did a test, and it's like he's got progressive hearing loss in one ear. And we're like, crap. And we're like, well, what does that mean? They're like, well, it doesn't get better, only gets worse. So I'm like, okay. So that was the first step before we took him and got him tested for things like autism and stuff like that. So that we were going to go down that test too. This was the first stop on the road, and it's like, cool. Our little precious baby is losing his hearing, and we sat in that, and I was thinking that was one of the greatest fires that we sat in, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, and we're driving in the car talking, and then we just hear every time, like every day, multiple times a day, we would hear, what? Huh? Just reminding us, drilling it into our head, reminding us that this thing's getting worse. And I was at my breaking point. And finally, we were going to meeting at the time, and I just kind of had that first crack in the veneer. And I'm reading my Bible, and I finally just, like, one night, I felt like such an idiot, but I put my hands on his ears, and I was looking at him in the face, and I just said, God, you created him. You can do whatever you want. And I read in Scripture that you do, but yet I hear from the workers that you don't work this way. I just have to reject this. I reject this. I think you still heal. You can do this. And I just challenged him. For the first time in my life, I challenged him of like, you can do this. And I did that for a while. And then it was like, it wasn't anything dramatic, but it was about 6 months later, I turned to my wife and I was like, I haven't heard him say what in months. So we rushed him back to the doctor, completely healed. We have the test to prove it. Completely healed. He hears fine. He has zero issues. Behavior has improved. He's the star out there on the football field right now. I'm sharing this story because I had the audacity to challenge God and to say, show up. Be who you say you are. And I think for the first time, God went, finally, you want to have a relationship with your dad. This is real. You don't want this, oh, we just sat in reverent silence and make sure we don't make dad mad, else he'll kill you. I finally challenged him and said, this is who you say you are. And I witnessed a miracle. And doctors can't explain it. They can't explain it, but it happened. Miracles are still alive. You can be healed in a day. If you feel like your mind's just broken from years in this abuse, it can be healed in a day. Like it can be. You can speak declarations and win. It can be. It's so much bigger and so much powerful than we've ever been led to believe. And your dad, our dad, actually loves us. And if you look at kids or people that are like kids to you, and you wouldn't do half of the things that you think God did to you, then he's a better parent than you ever are. Like, if you wouldn't do these things to your own kids or people that you look at that are kind of like kids or family, then like God wouldn't. So I just want to keep like correcting the image of God that the 2x2 church completely ruined, and be a testament of he does care, he does love, and he can heal, and we have seen miracles actually exist. And so you're never going to convince me that that stuff isn't real. We've seen it.
I believe it 100% because I know for sure that he does heal. I have witnessed it myself in my own life. He speaks to us. Yeah. It is a very, very powerful process. And so, I'm going to give you last word, but the last thing that I wanted to say on all of that is just curiosity without pressure was what I had written down, and that was what had come to my mind after so much of just, I think that the other thing that we battle coming out of the 2x2s is that we put so much pressure on ourselves to like it for it to be a certain way, or for there to be this audible thing that we're supposed to hear, whatever it is, like it's supposed to just be perfect, and then this all the pressure around wanting it a certain way. And honestly, you've said it tonight. I've said it tonight and I'm going to say it again. It happened for me when I came to the end of myself and I
Hmm.
let go. When I got to my breaking point and said, okay, God, do it your way then. I'm done. I'm not going to do it. So I think, and I also think this is my other interpretation after what happened on Sunday, is that we have been in survival mode. And so it's a defense position that people have been in since leaving meeting. For the most part, it's a defense position of having that wall up and being fearful still. And I would just like to challenge everybody out there tonight to just ask God to meet you where you are,
Hmm.
audibly, out loud. Help me, God, and don't worry about the outcome. Don't have pressure around it. Don't have, just be curious about what it is that He wants in your life for you, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
But I just feel like that's really what my lesson has been for sure this last week. So I'm going to
Yeah.
say one last thing. Any other questions for you guys? Otherwise, I'm going to give you last word, which I can't believe what last word. I want to talk to you for another hour. Okay, last hour,
Yeah.
last word. Jared, goes to you.
Well, to bring this full circle, talking about being forged. The reason I tell that story, not just a story as a miracle, but I was allowed to sit in the fire, and it didn't burn, it didn't kill me, but it hurt so bad. But what it did is it brought me to the feet of God and brought me to challenge Him in frustration. And that's the good that comes out of that. That's the forging. Had we not gone through that, I wouldn't have seen that miracle. And now my son knows that he had a miracle happen. And that's one of like three miracles we've seen with him. And so we have him talk about it a lot. He'll tell people about it. He knows that he's a miracle. And it's set him on a path for life. It's set us on a path, on a different path. But all of that came from sitting in that hurt. So if you're sitting in hurt and you're like, where are you, God? You can't get away from God. That's the thing. It's like, well, if you go to the movies, God's not there. No, it's impossible because David said, even in the depths of hell, that God is there. You can't get closer to God. He's literally all around you. Now, you can have a closer relationship with Him, but that was just proof that He was always there. He was always there around us. And while we were sitting in that fire, it wasn't until I said, okay, I give up, I'm done. And I took authority and I said, this is who you say you are. And then it happened. And it is wild to see what happened. He wants you to pick up that authority and He wants a real relationship. And sometimes that relationship is saying, I don't believe you're a good father. Speak the truth. Allow Him to come back and be like, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. So it's all about a relationship.
I totally agree. And the workers took that away. That they
Hmm.
interceded on that behalf. There was no relationship. It wasn't.
Yep.
It wasn't authority that we had in our own sense of self. And if anybody takes anything away from this tonight, it is that. Also, you were given authority. You have it, and you
Hmm.
are worthy of it, and you are so loved already. So I would just, we spent a little bit of time on Sunday morning talking about receiving and learning to receive God's love, because that is also something that's very, very hard for us to do coming out of the two by twos, is to
Hmm.
receive the amount of love that God has for us. And that is just such a powerful, powerful thing that has happened in my own life, of just knowing how loved I truly,
Yeah.
truly am by God. And that is where my capacity of love, and that's what's happened for me this last week is, I've in the natural, I got a little bit hard because I was like defensive for people who are so broken and who feel so weary of the fight. And it made me just want to fight hard and be, defensive on their behalf. And this week, I have found back to being softened and to
Hmm.
just let
Hmm.
His love shine through me, and that I
Yeah.
don't have to fight the fight. I can just let the love be tender
Hmm.
and soft and gentle, and that is the healing that so many that are listening right now or later need to know is available to them, is that kind of love
Yeah.
that they've never, we didn't have it.
No, we don't wrestle against flesh.
No.
We don't. I mean that's a big takeaway too of what we've been through.
Yes.
Is if I allow myself to start really going through all that was done to me, man, I
Yes.
can get to a dark place. Just
Oh
like
yeah.
how dare you? Like how dare you groom me for this other life that you like, but I don't wrestle against flesh. I'm in a spiritual war and it frees me and I can forgive and let go. And then, like, another
Yep.
person that probably isn't even thinking about me that day doesn't control me anymore. I'm
Yep.
fighting the demons that they had. I'm in that spiritual realm. So
Oh
that's the
yeah.
thing. It's like, don't get lost in the fighting against the flesh because you'll lose that battle. You'll lose
Yep.
that battle because you literally can't do anything about it. But if you fight in the spiritual realm, you can get freedom. So I
Yes.
just, yeah.
That's Sarah Mitchell saying, in humility, not pride of the two by two. It was exclusivity pride. And it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly
It
that.
was 100%.
Well, I want to thank you as always, Jared. It is always a pleasure and a joy. I look forward to having you next time. I'll be in touch with you tomorrow about the
Yeah.
next date. It's getting scheduled. If people are interested, I would like to do the listening prayer, and maybe we can do that on Zoom or however. I'll talk. We can talk about
Yeah.
that privately if people are interested in doing something like that. But of course, you would need to lead that. But
I can lead
I don't
that.
even need to have anything to do with it. You can just post the Zoom here on Survivor or whatever. But yeah, I want to thank you for your faith. I want to thank you for the depth of your compassion and your love for people, and taking the time to share with us tonight, as always. So, and please give your wife a hug from me
I
because
will.
God was in that for sure this week. So, all right,
100%.
everybody, thank you for listening, and I want everybody to have a great, great week and know that you are loved and you are worthy. So, with
100%.
that, have a great night.